Hello there, my name is SMDBZX Productions, and welcome to this What If? If you enjoyed this content, like, subscribe, and maybe I'll do a sequel. Or maybe I'll do a sequel, and if you dislike it too, I don't really know. Just do whatever you want. Let's get on to the What If. Issei's life in this timeline, or this What If, whichever you prefer, is fairly different from the one in canon, at least from the age of 10. When he was 10 years old, his dad, who in this timeline is a plumber, not that kind of plumber, as in he fixes toilets and whatnot, brought him to the woods to fix a local shower. You know, those ones you wash sand off on the beach or something like that. Issei decided he wanted to go Super Dragon because a tree looked at him the wrong way, and he went off to play, as any other 10-year-old would. While he was in the woods, a device flies through the trees and crashes onto the ground. Inside the crater, Issei explores, and there was the device. The device did what it did and stuck itself upon his wrist. And from there, well...
A child? The Omnitrix is in the hands of a mere child?
From there, Issei would spend the next 2 years with the Omnitrix. His original playlist isn't important as of right now, so to speed things along, we'll skip along until it becomes important. For one reason or another, Issei decided to take off the Omnitrix. Of course, it's not as easy as let me just slip it off, because it's not the Alien Force or Onward Omnitrix. But Azimuth was very likely involved in removing it, meaning that Issei knows of aliens. He knows that they actually exist, and his watch just isn't like a bunch of monsters. However, 5 years pass, and Issei's life is relatively the same as in canon. The only difference, though, is that he's a little bit more fit and has combat experience already. And he's a little bit, competent. He would likely only have to dealt with threats such as the circus freak, and nothing like Vilgax or that giant bug cannibal bolted down. Don't get, confused, though. Issei is definitely still a pervert. Because Issei is so similar to canon, he does make the story start relatively the same. Him and his friends go to work on his biology paper on women, because that is what he was going to the bathroom for, to study women biology for a science paper, and they spilled chemicals, which is why they were running away. That's definitely what happened. He wasn't, being a pervert or anything. No, obviously. He was just doing science for a science paper. And, he runs to the occult research club with his friends, trying to hide, and he sees Rias, and his body goes science, his pants are just like, bro, we gotta go do some science stuff. Natural science. And he continues on his day. Meaning, he goes, meets Rainier, goes on a date, gets flirty, grabs the flyer for to he can save 100% on his devil life insurance, which is pretty nice. It's even better than Geico. And then comes to realize that Rainier is a total witch who is only into him for his dragon breadsticks, because Issei can cook. Unfortunately for Rainier, the joke's on her, because Issei doesn't have any breadsticks. The cook thing was actually just a lie to make him see cool. But, she just doesn't. Now he looks like a fool. Okay, getting out of censorship jokes now, which I may or may not need to do at this point, but screw it. It's easier just to not censor myself. Rainier can't allow a mere mortal to see her true beautiful form, even if he doesn't have the sacred gear he was hoping he had. She makes a spear of light and tries to throw it at Issei's kneecaps. However, in this story, as we said, Issei has some combat experience and he's a bit more fit, and thus he's able to do a barrel roll and get out of the way of the attack. As he does, he lands on his feet and slaps his wrist. He then says, ow, followed up by an, oh man, and barely dodges another spear of light. Now, these barrel rolls were more like him face planting the dirt, but they got the job done. Eventually, however, he does get away without dying, which is very important for the difference in the plot of this what if. He runs home and quickly thinks to himself, he can't beat a woman like that. She's alien, supernatural. He can't think of what he could do to beat her. Not to mention, she could fly, and, he couldn't jump that high to reach her, nor can he fly himself. But then he remembered, he can't fly. He can jump that high. And thus, he digs into his closet and pulls out a cardboard box. Because cardboard boxes are the best way to block signals to the most powerful devices in the galaxy, as seen in episode 1 of Alien Force. He stops and debates to himself. Should he put the watch back on? Was it worth it? But then he remembered what Grandpa Hiro once told him. With great power comes great responsibility. Or maybe that was some uncle or something, but it didn't matter. The point was, he not only needed the power to defend himself, but he could have been helping people. A lot of people have died in this town as of the last 5 years, whether it was because of accidents or just, bad people doing bad things. He could have stopped it if he kept the watch on, but he didn't. So he decides to put it back on. He then sneaks to his backyard and opens up the Omnitrix's UI. The classic Omnitrix, the one that you turn and has like the little alien symbols inside the watch. He scrolls through until he finds what he calls Scarface. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. If I keep calling them by custom names, I'm going to forget who these guys are. Honestly, I didn't even want to. This is Nep's fault, so I blame her completely. But unless the characters themselves are referring to the aliens, I will be referring to their OG names. However, I will create a sheet at the end showing what aliens have what names. And, it'll be at the end of the video. You can go see that. Issei yells something cheesy that he yelled as a kid. Like, I don't know, it's Issei time? Or something like that. No, that's reserved for his right hand. My bad. Either way, he yells something and slaps his watch. But instead of transforming, it just makes a really sad beep. He looks down to his Omnitrix and sees it turn blue, but only in the middle and not the button or the side orbs, which I really wonder why Alien Force did that. It's honestly really annoying. It honestly bothers me. But, whatever. It won't be around for very long. Issei decides whatever the problem is, the watch will probably fix itself. After all, it always did that beforehand, or if he did have to mess with it, it was very minimal, just like turning a knob or clicking a button or something, or just maybe unjamming it from the ports that the centerpiece was in. He arrives at the park and starts searching around, looking for Rainier. Lucky for him, Rainier found him on his way to the park and decided to find him there. There was a very familiar scene here. Rainier, stands above him on the fountain, looking down upon Issei. However, this time, Issei has a very confident smirk. They would have a small dialogue, likely some type of sexual jokes, saying, oh, someone finally put their pants on, and Issei being like, oh, not only do I have a pair of pants, I put on a belt. And, eventually she would notice the Omnitrix on his wrist and be like, oh, that's his sacred gear. Issei would slap down on the watch, hoping it would work, and it does. It starts glowing a very bright green light and turns into the Alien Force Omnitrix, which is still technically the prototype, but he is unaware of that. He starts scrolling through aliens and doesn't really recognize any of these ones. None of them were in his original playlist. All except for one, which he smirks and is very happy to find it was his favorite alien as a kid. It's hero time, Issei yelled. He raised his hand and stopped. Wait, no, that sounds stupid. Go Gadget Omnitrix. Wait, no. Transform and brawl out. You know what? I'll just use the watch. There was a bright flash of green light, and Rainier blocked her eyes from the light. She then stopped, dumbfounded, after the light disappeared and she looked. Rainier had come to see a giant cat man. He had claws on the top of his hands, or what appeared to be claws, maybe some type of real fleshy daggers made of, I don't know, obsidian. And he also had a green watch on his chest. Rainier was very confused, as she had not seen a sacred gear which had a transformation quite like this. Let me tell you something, Yuma, stupid woman who plays upon my generally powerful teen hormones and love of the human body. You done attacked the Wrath, and Wrath believes in gender equality! So for future reference, that is the only time I'm going to try to do a Wrath impression, but I thought I would do it the one time. I'm not very good at that, as you can tell. Before Rainier can start talking and asking, A, why was Wrath talking in third person, and 2, why was Wrath, why was he here, she got punted, which, because of that, made him slam into the fountain and break it, getting water all over him. He would then growl and yell, "Let me tell you something, Water. Wrath doesn't appreciate being wet when he's trying to fight psycho devil ladies with freaky deaky spear powers." Wrath runs at Rainier, growling like a tiger, and slams her face into the concrete, breaking it, creating a small crater where her face was. He then started swinging her away like a rag doll. Rainier comments on how she's a fallen angel, not a filthy devil. But Wrath doesn't care, as he's easily taking out the witch with an itch who is quite literally in a ditch after swinging her around. He grabs her by the foot and starts slamming her on various spots on the ground, pulling a puny god scene before smashing her into the fountain, which he had smashed originally. That poor fountain. Wrath calls her a puny fallen angel, and then spits on her. Rainier flinches, unable to fight, but not dead. As long as someone finds her, that is. She's bleeding quite heavily. Wrath disappears with the flash and turns back to Issei, who jumps up and raises his fist into the air. He then sighed in an adrenaline-rushed exhaustion. It had been so long since he used Wrath, or even transformed in general, and Wrath was his favorite alien as a kid, so he was super excited. He hadn't had that much energy, and he couldn't remember how long. You could say it's a bit of an alien-forced high. He let Rainier live, as I think he would do this. In canon, even after she killed Issei, he couldn't bring himself to end her. And because of that, I don't think his limited experience fighting crime is really going to stop him from not killing her. Now, if she does something again, I do think Issei would know that he needs to take care of her, but as of right now, he's only tried to attack him, and that's generally okay. Issei would leave to go back home and stretch his limbs. He'd check out his new Omnitrix again, going through a various amount of aliens that he just did not know. They're all new to him, except for Wrath. He was ready to go back to stopping crime and look into whatever this fallen angel stuff was. After all, it's not like he's been surrounded by angels, demons, and fallen angels his whole life. Right?